Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. It's Tuesday night. Normally, I'm joined by my friend Seamus, and we talk about the Fox show next. He's taking his CPA class tomorrow morning, so we're giving him the night off. And tonight, I'm joined by my friend from St. Thomas University, the sports editor, the Aquinian, the local newspaper there, Billy Cole, to talk about the NBA. Billy is a Toronto Raptors fan, but he's also on the podcast because he's a big Dirk Nowitzki fan, and I'm a huge fan myself. So, Billy, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Perfect. Well, there was a lot every NBA offseason. There's always turmoil. This one was no different, but it was really quick. It was basically 10 days, maybe less of activity. Players went everywhere. But who what was what's your best acquisition of the off season?
My
Player
best,
acquisition.
my favorite acquisition. So for the East, I'm gonna have to say Dino Gallinari of Atlanta. I think it was an underrated pickup. They signed him to a 3-year deal, 61 million, which comes to around 20 mil a year. Atlanta, the past couple of years they've been rebuilding, but they found their star in Trae Young. I think they've got a solid supporting cast with John Collins. Uh, And now they're ready to take that next step, not like a contender, but to push for the playoffs. And I think Dino Gallinari, he'll give you 15 to 20 each night. He's a consistent scorer. He's a 3-and-D. He can post up. I really like this accusation from Atlanta.
Yeah, I agree. I liked what Atlanta did overall. Getting Rondo, getting Gallinari,
Mm-hmm.
they they really got better. And we may touch on them later when we go through our seedings for the playoffs, but they're definitely a team that I like, and I like him a lot too. I agree with everything you said. He does everything well. Not great, but he's a good player, not a great player, but he's a much cheaper option than, say, a Tobias Harris in Philly, who makes like 33 million a year, and I think Gallinari does just as good as Harris does as an overpaid player.
Right. And he shoots 40% from three. He's had a couple injury bugs the past couple years,
Mm.
but the past 2 years when he was in LA, in OKC, he played most games, probably missed about 10 games those seasons. So if he can stay healthy and keep this trend going, I think he'll be a really great pickup and he can help the Hawks make a playoff push again.
No, agreed. So probably my favorite acquisition of the offseason, I was thinking of big names, and I didn't want to go there because that's just kind of cliche. And I like your name because you didn't go there either. So I went with Seth Curry, who was acquired by Philly from the Dallas Mavericks. He's actually, believe it or not, the best. He has the best 3-point shooting percentage in NBA history.
I did see that actually.
Yeah,
I
which
did
I
see
found
that.
super surprising. But you think of his brothers, obviously, is Steph, I think the greatest shooter ever. But Seth, sorry, can make threes. He shoots over 40% year over year for three. I think he'll be perfect to play with Ben Simmons because Ben Simmons can drive the paint and he can find Seth outside shooting threes. I think he can average 12 to 15 a game this year, and I think that's all you really need from him. He's a defensive liability, but his offensive game really helps. And Philly's acquisition of Danny Green too really has made them a much better team in my mind.
Right. And we've seen this problem with Philly in the past couple of years. It's transformed into such a league where shooters are so valuable. And you don't really get that with Ben Simmons, who does everything great except for that. So to be able to space the floor and add Curry and Danny Green, like you said, Joel Embiid, he's not a bad 3-point shooter, but you want your big man in the paint most of the time. So adding those two guys, I think, is a great pickup for Philadelphia.
Yeah, yeah, I think he'll be great. The Mavericks, I think, will miss him. They got Josh Richardson in the trade. I didn't love the trade for them, but yeah, it's tough, tough, tough move. But a good one for Philly. How about your favorite acquisition in the West?
In the West, I'm gonna have to go with Robert Covington. The Blazers picked him up from Houston. I don't necessarily think Covington's worth 2 first rounders, but they did get rid of that Ariza contract, which wasn't too bad. But where Portland's in the West, you kind of have to pay a lot to compete. So you can kind of justify giving up 2 first rounders. But Robert Covington, he does everything well. He's an above average 3-and-D player. He's not a star by any means. But Portland, they've been kind of counted out after a tough year. They finished 8th in the West, but we can't forget these guys went to the conference finals back in 2019. And they also had it added Harry Giles. He's a young center to replace Whiteside. But I really
They got Cantor back too.
And they did get Cantor back. I really think Portland, they can make a strong push again. Because they've been counted out all last year. And Damian Lillard, he proved in the bubble that he can still be an elite point guard.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like Covington a lot as a player. I think he's one of the better defenders in the NBA. He just gives you effort every game, and there's a lot of NBA players who on the defensive end give you none. So for him to always come out energetic and spry is a great pickup for Portland. And I like their team in general. I agree with you. I think they can make some noise this year in the tough Western Conference, but they're on the move for sure. For the Lakers, I went with Dennis Schroeder. I mentioned I like Rondo going to Atlanta, but I think Schroeder is better for the Lakers right now just because he gives them more of a spark offensively. He could start or come off the bench. I prefer him off the bench just because he's an energetic player. But he can assist too. He had his career high in assists last year, 4, not that many, but he can still dish the ball, and he can draw double teams because he's a threat to shoot. He's just a shot maker. So for LA's team right now, I like Rondo probably better overall, but Schroeder complements them very well for the Lakers.
Yeah, and I think he will come off the bench because if I'm not mistaken, LeBron was playing a lot of point guard last year.
Yeah, I assume he'll keep doing that. I mean, he's the best point guard in the league, even if he wasn't playing point guard. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's the best passer still.
Mm-hmm. And he led the league in assists last year too, which goes to show, LeBron can play any position.
Yeah, and Schroeder I think will give LeBron the option to play off ball too when he's on the floor. LeBron is going to be 36 on December 30th, and he is Iron Man, but anytime he can get a little bit of a rest while still being on the floor will help him in the long run towards the ultimate goal, which is the back-to-back championship.
Mm-hmm. Especially with such a short off season as well.
Yeah, 2 months basically, and then they'll be back a week from tonight. So the Lakers and the Heat are in a tough spot, having such a short off season, like you said. But if anybody knows LeBron James, he'll be ready to go come opening night. He's puts more money into his body than any athlete in the world, I think. So he's in good shape.
Mm-hmm. And he's used to short off seasons, maybe not this short, but he went to the finals 8 years in a row.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the NBA, they play into, mid-June. It's not like the NHL that's done basically June 1st or, the 1st or 4th. Normally the season's done. NBA can go till June 15th, 18th. Like it goes mid-June at least. So I agree completely. How about your one team in the East that you found was the winners of the offseason?
In the East?
Yeah.
See, the East, it was really tough this year. I thought a lot of the winners came from the West.
Yeah, I agreed.
But in the East, Brooklyn, they're going to have Kyrie back at full health, I hope, at least. Same with Kevin Durant. freezing. Sorry.
No problem. No, yeah, Brooklyn, Brooklyn wins the offseason just by getting Kevin Durant, Kyrie back healthy. Hopefully they can come back. I mean, Kevin Durant is a top 2 player in the NBA when he's on his game. He's like a walking 30 points. So if they can get him back healthy, Kyrie, he's a pain in the ass because he doesn't talk to the media and he's all about himself. But when he's on, he's a hell of a player. And they also got, Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Prince is a good player. So if they're healthy, they're a threat
Right.
to beat anybody.
Right. And we had big news today from Giannis, and I think that makes Milwaukee winners because you've seen star players. It's not really a trend like it was, say, in the 90s, early 2000s for star players to stay with one team. We've seen LeBron leave, KD, Kyrie. So for a low market team like Milwaukee to be able to keep their star, they didn't have the ending to the season they wanted last year. So they retooled. They went out and got Holiday. They tried to get Bogdanovich, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't work out, but they were still able to get those tools and hopefully make another finals push. But most importantly, they locked up Giannis for another 5 years.
Yeah. As Billy mentioned, it was breaking news today. The Greek Freak re-signed with Milwaukee, a 5-year supermax contract, which is worth $228 million, which is just staggering. And Milwaukee's there long term. And no, I agree with you because I had them as my losers originally because they got Holiday, which he's a really good player, but they couldn't get Bogdanovich. That deal fell through. It was hard to understand why it didn't go through.
I didn't really get it.
Yeah, they basically said that they didn't okay it with him, that the deal was going to go through. So it just looked like bad management. But for them to keep him in Milwaukee, of all places, I mean, Milwaukee's not a great market. They're small market. And just to have his name, it really hurts the Miami Heats of the world, the Toronto Raptors of the world, who had their sights set on acquiring him in the offseason. So it definitely, I think it helps Milwaukee. Their team still, I don't think, is improved that much. Drew Holiday's better, but it gives them more years to keep pushing for that title.
Right. And I think Holiday was an upgrade over Eric Bledsoe.
For sure. Yeah.
But I do like Bledsoe as a defensive point guard. They also lost George Hill, who I thought was a great point guard off the bench.
Yeah, agreed.
I think Brook Lopez is still there.
He is.
But it's hard to imagine him getting any better each season as he gets up there with age. He has expanded his game and added the 3-point shot. But I don't know if Lopez is going to be a huge piece,
No, I mean, he is what he is. He's one of the worst defensive centers in the NBA just because he's used to playing outside the 3-point line, which is so strange for a center. That makes him tough for the opponent, but no, they're still one of the favorites in the East for sure. Right up there, but keeping Giannis gives them new lease on life to try new things, be a little bit more aggressive maybe. And who knows, Kawhi Leonard's a free agent.
One can hope.
Yeah. Imagine he went to Milwaukee. I can't see it, but he's a weird guy, so that kind of suits him.
And he's just another example of stars leaving.
Yeah, he loves to do it. So who knows? How about your loser? I said I had Milwaukee, so I crossed that one off.
My loser from the Eastern Conference, I gotta go with the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah,
I really don't know what's going on over there. I didn't mind the pick in Killian Hayes. I thought it was a really good pick actually. But Troy Weaver, he comes in as the new GM, and I think he got a little trigger happy. I don't mind Mason Plumlee and Jeremy Grant as players. but I just don't see what their long-term plans are. I think they should have spent that money on Christian Wood, maybe move on from Blake Griffin. We saw the Lakers wanted Derrick Rose, and I think Rose's value is the highest it's been in quite some time. And you saw the Lakers, they gave up a first round pick for Schroeder. Maybe they could have gotten a first round pick for Rose, and maybe a player like Taylor Hucker or Tucker Horton, who's had a
Mhm.
great preseason so far. So they may have missed out on some potential key assets, and I'm not quite sure what the thought process is there.
Yeah, they have too many bigs. Like they have too many players who do the same thing, and they still playing Blake. And he's always, we talked about injuries before. He's a walking injury.
Right.
He's just a hospital. That's what he is. Like he's just always hurt. And I like Jeremy Grant a lot. I think what Detroit, I agree that they went too trigger happy. And what it did is that it hurt Denver a lot. Grant was really important to that team last year. Uh, he's played well every night. Plumlee was a best center off the bench, but the way the Pistons roster looks, it looks like he's gonna start with Blake Griffin. Like,
I
they look
don't.
like they're a team from the '80s now. The way they're built.
Well, maybe they're going for the bad boys again.
Yeah, yeah, I guess
But
maybe.
and it even goes back to last season at the trade deadline. I really think they sold Drummond short. They got two second round picks out of him
Mm-hmm.
from Cleveland, which for starters, I don't understand why Cleveland wanted him, but
Yeah, it's
that
another
doesn't matter.
puzzler.
But I really think they could have got more for Drummond. I think it's time to move on from Griffin. Derrick Rose, they could have moved. Christian Wood ended the season so strongly. He averaged over 20 points the past 19 games, I think it was. But they ended up losing him to Houston. I'm not too confident in their future right now. They're stuck in mediocrity. They're just so mediocre.
Yeah, no, agreed. And Detroit franchises are struggling right now. I know that that's probably hard on you because I know you're a Red Wings fan, but
Yeah, don't get me started on that. Oh
no,
boy.
Tigers too. They aren't very good either.
No.
So
Oh man. It's
my
tough.
my loser, for a couple reasons, is the Houston Rockets in the West. They had a off season. Wow, this was a tricky one. They didn't really upgrade their roster. And then they traded Russell Westbrook because he wanted out, but they traded him for John Wall,
Mhm.
who John Wall, when he first came out, looked like a superstar. And he was okay in Washington. I wouldn't call him a superstar. I think he was a good to great player. But then he tore his Achilles and he's been out for 2 years. And people say he looks good in workouts, but I want to see it on the floor before, like, even in preseason games, that's not the real thing. So, take that with a grain of salt. But so they trade Westbrook, who's a much better player than John Wall right now. I mean, Russell Westbrook has his warts, but he is going to give you a triple double every game. So you know that. Um, and now James Harden wants out of Houston too. So they get John Wall to hope to keep James Harden happy. He's like, no, I don't want to stay here. And they're in the mess now. I don't know where they end up because they have Eric Gordon and they have PJ Tucker. They still have a semblance of a team there, but they're losing hope every day.
And they're taking a swing on DeMarcus Cousins as well.
Yeah, no,
Who,
exactly. He's coming off
right.
two serious injuries.
Yeah, just like John Wall. And those are going to be their starters, it looks like.
Yeah. So speaking of James Harden, he said for 3 weeks now he wants out. All the, Woj and Shams are reporting on it that he's not happy. At the end of this calendar season, what team is he on?
I've thought about this and I've come to these four destinations. So if I had to pick one, I'm going to say Philadelphia, but I think Miami has the assets. I think
Mm-hmm.
Toronto has the assets. I think Boston does. I don't think they'll go for it. But at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, I think he's going to Philadelphia because we talked about how lacking Philly has with shooting.
Yeah.
Obviously, they upgraded that this season with Curry and Danny Green. But if Philly, we haven't seen much success with the whole process, they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Second round exits, first round exits. I think they got swept to Boston last year in the
Yeah, they
bubble.
did. Yeah.
It's just, and Elton Brand, he came out and said Simmons and Embiid, they're untouchable. It's not going to happen. But now we see these rumors about Ben Simmons for James Harden. And I think it's going to be the best fit for both sides.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting because I would love to see Harden and Ben Simmons play together. That I think you're right that it would be, Embiid with Harden makes more sense. But for my personal interest, I'd love to see Simmons and Harden play together. Just because Simmons can basically play the center position if you need him to. He's that tall.
Right. He's 6'10, I
Yeah,
think.
he's 6'10 and he's a top 5 passer. So
Mhm.
and Harden, yeah, he's one of the biggest ball hogs in the history of the NBA. I mean, his
Mhm.
usage rate's always top 3 every season. But Simmons feeding him the ball and then both driving the cup. I mean, they're basically unguardable inside the paint, both of them.
Mhm. I could see that working out. We haven't, Westbrook and Harden didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Simmons isn't as ball orientated as Westbrook though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I'll say it again, he's not a great shooter. It's well known.
No.
So he's not going to be taking those shots outside of the key like Westbrook wants to
You can shoot threes better than Ben Simmons.
do.
Well, at least you'll
um,
shoot. At least you'll try it. He won't.
no, it's it says a lot when even he attempts a three, the crowd cheers.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I don't know how you play this many years in the NBA and your coach or your dad or whoever doesn't say like Ben, like you gotta at least know how to make a floater.
Right, like the league is transforming ever since the Golden State Warriors in 2015. The three ball, the small ball, it's it's the future of the league, positionless basketball, and the 3-point shot. I think it's an essential now when it comes to a basketball player. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's essential. Um,
No,
you know,
the 3-point shot is key. I mean, it doesn't take we're in journalism, we're not math majors, but it's pretty easy to understand that threes are worth more than twos. Like
yeah.
we can do that mental math. You make more threes and the team shoots twos and you make more threes, you win.
hmm And
So
Golden State, they're the
yeah,
definition of it.
no,
Prime
exactly.
example.
Before we move on to what I'm excited to really talk about is we're gonna lay out for you guys, the listeners, our picks, the top 8 seeds. So basically the playoff teams in the East and West. You're a Raptors fan, so what'd you make of their offseason and their future going forward?
Well, we didn't bring back Ibaka. Gasol, I can understand. I knew it was going to be one or the other. I would have preferred Ibaka. I didn't think it'd be both.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, Ibaka took the deal with more money that the Raptors didn't offer because they wanted to go for Giannis. Saw
Right.
today, Giannis signed the max extension. So where they go from here, I like Baines as a replacement, but it's going to come down to their development. They've done a great job with Van Vliet, obviously. OG, he's promising, but we need to see a big step ahead for Chris Boucher, I think. And as good as OG has progressively gotten, I think he needs to take a big step this year as well if they want to compete for a spot in the finals again. I don't think they're going to go to the finals with the East getting much better. but I think they can potentially make the second round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ibaka, I thought they'd get him back. Obviously, they were happy to get Fred VanVleet back. So that was their biggest key, which I'll give them credit. They accomplished that. They gave him a fair contract, not overpay, but they gave him a good amount of money. It was around 21 million for Fred. So
Mm-hmm.
I like Baines too. He is a significant downgrade from Ibaka, though. Just all around. Ibaka had a great year last year. He
Mm-hmm.
played some really good basketball in the bubble and before. But yeah, I think like you said, they're going for Giannis, so they didn't offer Ibaka that second year on the deal like the Clippers gave him,
Mm-hmm.
a year and an option. So what's key for them, I think, is Pascal Siakam showing people that he is a star to a superstar player. Because if you look at the Raptors long term, no free agents, big name free agents, go to Toronto. You have
No.
to trade for them. So if you're even going to have a chance to get them, you need to show players around the league that you have players that are stars. Because players nowadays are not going to Toronto by themselves to lose. Unless you draft the Chris Bosh, he's not coming. So they could hope for that and then draft and develop. Malachi Flynn has played 2 preseason games, which, like I said, take it with a grain of salt. But he's averaging 17 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. So he's shown promise, and I think they're a playoff team for sure. But I don't know. Their future could be really bad in Toronto if they don't do a couple things right here.
Right, exactly. And I'm unsure of what's going to happen with Kyle Lowry.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting older. I think he's 34, I want to say. 35. He's
Yeah, I
been in
think
the league
he's
for
I think
quite
he's the
some
same
time.
age as LeBron, so I think he'll be
Right.
36 this year.
Wow. Gee, time flies, man.
Yeah.
um, I don't know he's going to be able to perform at that all-star level. He's going to be valuable to any team. He's a great leader. He's a hustler. Um, but I don't think he's got those all-star numbers in again. And I don't think he can be that guy that he was in 2019. As much as I love Lowry, he's been with the Raptors this whole playoff run
Mm-hmm.
streak. I mean, but you got to wonder when it's time to move on from him and start to make VanVleet and Pascal the main people on the team.
Yes, he's in his last year, like the lame duck year of his contract. So if they don't trade him, he'd walk or they'd re-sign him. But he's making 33 and a third per year right now. There's no way you can sign him for that money again. But I don't know. Kyle's kind of a touchy guy too because he gets really emotional about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He might take it as a slight that he's if his pay goes from say 33 million to, I'm not saying cut it in half, but Fred's money like 21, you can't go more than that in my mind
Mm-hmm.
because you need to be able to pay other people, and he's not, like you said, he's not gonna be your best player.
No, those days they're behind him. And I think OG Anunoby is going to take a big step. So you're going to have to pay him and
Mm-hmm.
keep room for him. Um, and VanVleet, I think he's the leader of this team. Say what you want about Pascal, but I think VanVleet's the most consistent player on the team.
For sure, yeah. Game in and game out, he brings it on both ends. And there's also the big question mark about Masai Ujiri. He's in his last year of his contract. He's the architect of this championship team, and I think he wanted to get Giannis. And with Giannis signing, the cupboard's kind of bare. So it would not shock me at all to see Masai Ujiri either go to a new team. He does a lot of stuff with charity work. He's got a great organization with Africa, him being
Mm-hmm.
born in Africa,
Yeah.
politics, things of that nature. So it could be the end of the road for this Raptors team.
Right. And like you said, Masai Ujiri, he went out and he did what he set out to do, and that was to bring a championship to Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
which seemed impossible when he joined them. But And whatever he does, I have nothing but respect for him.
No, I think everybody in Toronto would have that reaction. I think they'd be mad at first, but then you as irrational as a lot of the Toronto fans are, and for Raptors and the Leafs for that matter,
Mm-hmm.
they'd see, well, this guy did the impossible. We had never won, and he brought us to that ultimate goal. So he's a legend there forever. If he wants to stay, I think he can write his own check.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So moving on, like I said, this will be fun. We're going to go through our predictions for the Eastern and Western Conference standings. I'm excited to hear where we differ and when we stay the same. So I'm going to write down yours as you go, and then we can compare at the end. But let's start with the East, and you can start from 8-1. How's that?
8-1. Okay. So at the 8th seed, I got the Indiana Pacers. At the 7th seed, I've got Atlanta. The 6th seed, I got Philadelphia. The 5th, I got the Raptors. And the 4th, this one might come off as a surprise to some people, but I'm going to say the Brooklyn Nets. And the reason I say that is because Kevin Durant's coming off that injury.
Yeah.
Kyrie usually misses a couple games a season, more than a couple.
Yeah.
New head coach might take a while for the chemistry to get going. And in a shortened season as well.
There's not 72 games instead of 82 this year for the NBA.
At third, I got Boston. Second, Miami. And then at the top, I got Milwaukee.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, we have all the same teams, but in different order.
Okay.
So the 8th seed, I have the Atlanta Hawks. So they're every team that you named other than the Hawks made the playoffs last year, which is interesting. So the only change we both have is Atlanta making the playoffs over Orlando, who's made it the past 2 years, but they got worse in the offseason. DJ Augustine went to Milwaukee, which was a silent, pretty good pickup because he's a good player.
I actually forgot about that.
Yeah, he's a solid player. But I like Atlanta. They got a lot better. You know, Capella, Trae Young, Rondo, Cam Reddish. Like you said, John Collins is emerging as a really good player. Then I had Indiana. They're good but not great every year.
Right.
They were like the Raptors of old. They always made the playoffs but never really did any damage.
Never exceeded expectations. So
Right.
They almost took out Cleveland that one year.
Yeah, no, it went to 7 against LeBron there. But yeah, Oladipo will be back healthy, and he's a star when he's healthy. So they got a new coach. The former Raptors assistant is actually their new coach. They fired Nate McMillan.
Yeah.
But they're I agree. They never exceed expectations. They're always in the playoffs, but never take a huge jump. 6, I had the Toronto Raptors.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're good, but I think the East improved a lot.
They did.
The East got a lot better. And I think Miami's a really tough team. You still have Milwaukee, and the Raptors they're missing something. I think their center position will miss, and I think a lot of pressure's on Siakam to deliver, and I think we'll be able to tell within the first 10 games if he's feeling like he can handle, the weight of that pressure.
Right. Do you think them playing in Tampa Bay will affect them this year?
Yeah, that's a good question, Billy. I don't think it'll help them, but I don't know if it'll hurt them either, just because I don't know. I'd rather go to the game in 30-degree heat than minus 30.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, every team's going to be under similar, circumstances when it comes to travel restrictions and COVID protocols and stuff. But I actually today it came out they're gonna have limited fan capacity at the games.
Yep.
They wouldn't be able to have that in Toronto, so maybe that might help them. I don't know how many Raptors fans will be at the game. They're playing out of the MLA Arena where Tampa Bay plays, but having some fans I think helps a team like the Raptors because they kind of feed off that energy.
Right. Whether or not they'll be cheering for the Raptors,
Right.
I don't know. Like you said, but
Depends how
it'll be
many
something.
Canadians can get down there. Fifth, I had the 76ers.
Yep.
I like what they did, and I think they got better. They also got Doc Rivers as their new head coach, which you can look at as a good thing or a bad thing. But he's won a title, and I think he can make those players play harder. I think last year they were tired of Brett Brown,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of just quit against the Celtics. It was really pathetic, that series. So 4, I had Miami. They're just a good playoff team, I think. Like they'll be good in the regular season, but they're not worried about finishing first or any, if you can understand my logic there.
Right.
They're there. They'll play well, and then they turn it on when it's right when you need to.
Right. And I think they finished fourth last year as well.
Yeah, no, yeah, they did. So I have them staying where they were, but
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Butler, Bam, they got Goran Dragic to come back.
Yep.
They basically have their same roster that went to the finals. So
Mm-hmm.
they're good. Like they're
And
just
I think Tyler Hero is going to have a lot more touches as well this year.
yeah. I mean his rookie campaign in the bubble was unbelievable. But Duncan Robinson is one of
Lights
the
out.
best 3-point shooters too. So
Mm-hmm.
they're dangerous for sure. Third, I had the Celtics. So Boston again, they're right there. I think this year in the East, there's just really good teams and not great teams. Like Boston probably should have beat Miami on paper if you look at the rosters like stacked up last year. But I think it's on Jason Tatum to take another step to superstar status, and he has all the tools to do it. He could score 30 points in 10 minutes if you really needed him to. I mean, he can get hotter than anybody when he's on. So they have a good team. They got Tristan Thompson too, which I think helps.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the teams in his career use him as an energy guy. So, but Boston, they're always a threat.
Right. And I think Thompson will bring sort of a Montrezl Harrell type of
Right.
environment to the team. Great
Yeah.
energy guy off the bench, great offensive rebounder. And I really like the signing of Tristan Thompson.
Yeah, no, agreed. 2, I had Brooklyn, and I know that's probably high. And basically what you're saying with the injuries, I'm banking on them not getting injured.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have too much respect for Kevin Durant. I think he's going to be playing pissed off this year because LeBron won last year and everybody's kind of like, oh, LeBron, he had beaten LeBron twice in the finals in back-to-back years. And he didn't get a lot of credit for winning in Golden State because he joined, a 73-win team.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, he's the best player in the NBA when he's healthy. I think he's better than LeBron. And I think he's going to put on a show if he's healthy, and I'm banking on him being healthy. So that's why I have them finishing second behind Milwaukee. I have them finishing first for the third year in a row.
Right. Very, very similar predictions from us. I do agree what you said about Kevin Durant. I think he's potentially the greatest scorer the NBA has ever seen at his length, his size.
Yeah.
The way he shoots the three, he can post, fade away.
He's 7 feet tall, and he can still shoot that well. Like, it's unbelievable.
It's ridiculous. And, what people said about him in Golden State, that they don't count, they don't mean anything. And then LeBron comes out and wins the title after he leaves Golden State. But yeah, I definitely see Brooklyn as a finals contender. It's just, I think they might get off to a slow start.
Yeah, they very well could. They may have to load manage both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And with 72 games, it's different from 82, but one thing we both know about the NBA, it's not like the NHL where, you can get a lot of games where you get an off night because teams are just out of it before it even starts.
Right.
You play the Pistons or you play Cleveland, uh, that's a layup of a game.
Right. There's no way, teams like Brooklyn should be losing to
No,
teams like Detroit.
no, exactly. So moving on to the West, who do you got 8-1?
8-1. So I really wanted to see Phoenix, but I got to take the Pelicans at the 8th seed. I'm really hoping for a big year out of Lonzo Ball. I liked the addition of Bledsoe. JJ Redick's off the bench. I'm banking on Zion staying healthy.
Yeah.
We've seen in the preseason he's playing over 30 minutes a game.
The NBA is too. They're marketing people.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that was the biggest part of the play-in as well.
For sure.
That they had in the bubble. And they added Steven Adams as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm playing the Pelicans that night, I'm terrified of Steven Adams and Zion setting screens on me.
Yeah, it's not fun.
No. At the 7th seed, I'm going to say the Utah Jazz. I think they're taking a step back this year and the West got better. 6, I got Portland. I discussed the addition of Robert Covington earlier. I'm hoping Yusuf Nurkic is back to his old self after that brutal leg injury he had. 5th, I got Denver. And I still think the Nuggets are finals contenders. But, the Pistons snagged Grant and Plumlee from them. And they took a step back.
Yeah, agreed.
But, we saw Jamal Murray in the bubble, what he was doing. He's a potential all-star candidate now, if he can keep that up. I'm hoping Bol and Michael Porter Jr. can, step it up with the loss of those 2 key players.
And Jokic still a stud.
Jokic is the best center in the league, in my opinion. He's arguably better than Embiid.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. At 4th, I've got the Clippers.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. They've got the new head coach, Tyronn Lue, but, he's been there with them the whole year.
Yeah.
But really, with the Clippers, to me, it comes down to load management. I know the NBA is going to ease up on that this year, from what I hear.
No primetime games that you can load manage.
Right. And Kawhi, I think he'll take advantage of that. We've seen the rumors that he was a little bit of a diva last year with the Clippers. Losing Montrezl Harrell, it hurts, but I'm undecided if Ibaka is an upgrade from Harrell. I'm really not sure about that.
Yeah, defensively, definitely, but offensively, yeah, it's hard to say. Harrell doesn't shoot threes. That's the only knock on him.
Mm-hmm.
But in the paint, he's very effective.
Mm-hmm. Ibaka's got the length, though, for sure. This one's going to surprise a lot of people, but at 3rd, I'm taking Golden State.
Wow.
Steph Curry, he's back. I'm shocked that ESPN put him at the 8th best player behind Lillard. I love the addition of Kelly Oubre Jr. after losing Klay Thompson.
They had him behind Lillard.
They did. They had him at 8th, and then Lillard at 7th. And they had KD at 6, if you can believe that. You could make a whole podcast about that list.
Yeah, I might have to send you that. I might have to get you to send me that link because I might have to do one because that's crazy.
Well, DeMar DeRozan was ranked 82nd. I know he's fell off, but he's not.
Yeah, he's not trash.
No.
Wow. ESPN. Wow.
And this is a yearly tradition, but I think Andrew Wiggins breaks out this year. We say that every year, but this has got to be the year, man.
Yes, if
I'm
it's
just
not this year, it's never gonna happen.
right. I think this is his last chance. Second, I'm gonna take the Mavericks.
Wow.
Um, I've got Luca as the MVP this year. He could go out. He could average a triple double. I really think he has the potential to do that.
Hmm.
I'd like to see him kind of up his free throw percentage. He shoots 76% from the free throw line, which isn't awful. But when he gets to the line about 10 times a game, and I think he could get that up and maybe polish himself into a 50, 40, 90 player.
Yeah,
Uh,
agreed.
but he averaged 28 points per game last year, 9.5 rebounds, 9 assists. And he's 20 years old, and it's just ridiculous. He can get the turnovers down a little bit, but I really think Luka is going to lead this team to the second seed this year.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch. He's
Right.
probably he's one of my favorite players to watch, bar none.
Mm-hmm. And if he didn't have that ankle injury, I think he had
They
a
might have
shot
beat
at.
the Clippers.
I don't know. They don't. The first seed I got the Lakers.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a debate.
No.
They won the title and they won the offseason, in my opinion.
Yeah. No. I agreed. I'll go from 8-1, but no surprise. I also have the Lakers. They just re-signing LeBron and Anthony Davis wins the offseason without doing anything else that they did, and they did some good things after that. But our list, we have similar teams but way different placements. This is interesting.
Okay.
Eighth, I had Golden State actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just when I saw Clay was injured, that hurt me. I love watching him play. I think he's one of the hardest working players in the NBA, and to see him get hurt again, it's just like a gut punch. So I hope he can come back healthy. But I like Oubre a lot too. But I don't think they'll have the firepower. Draymond's not what he used to be. And if Wiggins can come on, then they're great. But I don't trust him to do it. He's never done it yet. So I'm gonna side with history on that one.
Yearly tradition.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, they can certainly finish higher, but that's where I have them right now. Seventh, I had Phoenix. So I like what they did. They got Chris Paul with Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, who was a former first overall pick, who I think will win Most Improved Player this year. They just have a solid team. They have a good coach too in Monty Williams, and we saw what Chris Paul did with OKC last year, and Devin Booker is better than any player OKC had.
Right.
So the West got better, but OKC was a playoff team. They got worse, clearly. So I see Phoenix. Chris Paul is going to be hungry to try to win one. So I don't see them missing just based on his play alone.
Mm-hmm.
Six, I had the Mavericks. I agree with what you said. I think they're a really good team, but I don't know if they're there yet. I think they need another. Porzingis is another guy who's injured a lot.
Yeah.
If he was healthy all the time, they're such a threat to win. But whenever you kind of need him, he's always got something wrong with him. And it's been like this since his rookie year with the Knicks. Probably was getting drafted by the Knicks, just haunted him. But I love Luka too. I think he could easily win MVP. I don't know if he could win it finishing sixth in the West. I don't like that's my only thing.
Right. It doesn't typically happen.
Yeah.
But Westbrook did it.
No, it's true. If the team's kind of not up to snuff and he can push them there, then he may have a good chance of winning it.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth, I had no, I'm reconsidering. Fifth, I had Denver. I was gonna say Portland. I'm not gonna say Portland anymore. You kind of convinced me with your takes on Denver, but they lost a key starter in Grant. They lost Plumlee off the bench. I really like Jamal Murray. Obviously from Canada, so I root for him. But again, they have Jokic too. They finished third last year, and they finished second the year before. Or they finished second last year, sorry, and then
Yes, it was
third
last
the
year.
year before. So they're always right there. I just think third to sixth in the West will be decided by like 3 games or less.
Right, which is something that has happened. It's been a trend the past couple of years in the
Yeah.
West. But like I said, it's hard to assess to see what will happen with Michael Porter Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Bull. I think they're going to be relying on him a lot this year.
Yeah, I agreed. Fourth, I had Portland. Portland, Nurkic being back is key for them. And with Lillard and McCollum, they finished eighth, but they're a way better team than eighth. The last time they're all healthy, they finished, like you said, they made it to a conference final, but they finished fifth in the West that year,
Mm-hmm.
and they made it to the conference final. So if they can get back that magic that they had, they certainly can do damage because Lillard, was rated above Steph, which is crazy, but he's a top 10 NBA player for sure. I mean, he does everything really well. So I give them a good chance. Then third, I had Utah, and that's high for them. I realize that, but I don't know. I'm thinking with them, Donovan Mitchell in the bubble really impressed me. He came to play. And they got the Stifle Tower there and Rudy Gobert.
Yep.
They probably won't finish this high, but this is just a hunch. They have something in Utah that I like. I can't really pinpoint it yet, but I like watching them play. And like I said, they'll probably finish lower, but I like what they're doing.
Yeah, and they didn't get better, but they didn't get worse.
Right. So
they kind of neutral.
If their players can get better, that might propel them higher in the standings. And then 2 and 1, I had the Clippers and then the Lakers, so the 2 LA teams. The Clippers, I agree, the load management might hurt them, but I just don't see a team in the regular season that's going to be a lot better than them. Like I look at Denver, kind of we said took a step back. I like Utah, but I don't think they're better than the Clippers. Portland might actually, of these teams that we mentioned, might be the biggest threat to them because they play when they're healthy. They all play. They don't really load manage. And Lillard doesn't like Paul George, and I'm sure he'd love to take that second seat away from him if he could.
And I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I mean it's good theater. So I mean whatever's best, that's what I want to see. So yeah, I'll just go through it again. In the East, Billy had Indiana, the Atlanta Hawks, Philadelphia, Raptors, Brooklyn, Boston, the Miami Heat, and Milwaukee. And then he had in the West, the Zion Pelicans, Utah Jazz, Portland Trailblazers, Denver Nuggets, LA Clippers, Golden State Warriors, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Lakers. That's correct, right?
Yep.
Yeah, no, a lot of our teams are the same. I think I like your Atlanta over Indiana. That could certainly happen. I think Atlanta is going to be a lot of fun to watch this year.
Mm-hmm.
I just like seeing them be relevant again, like just a new team, because for years, the same teams in the East just stink. Like Charlotte always sucks, and Atlanta and Detroit, and Cleveland whenever they don't have LeBron. Like it's always the
Right.
same
Yeah.
small market teams that just never do anything.
And like I said, Detroit, they're stuck. It's mediocre. I
Yeah.
think Orlando is at that point now.
Yeah.
Washington, they're a sleeper. I'm not. Beal and Westbrook could be really
Mm-hmm.
good together.
Yep.
But if I had to put money on it, I would say they missed the playoff this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if they start slow, Beal might not be that interested in playing every game. I think
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of sick of Washington. He kind of wants out too. So who knows? It's gonna be a fun season. 72 games. Unlike the NHL, the way they're proposing it, their teams are gonna play everybody because it's all U.S. So West versus East, like a regular season, which I like. I like seeing every team play each other than just playing your division 8 times. So this should be a fun season. It kicks off next Tuesday with Brooklyn and Golden State, and then the two LA teams. That's always a fun matchup.
Right. And then we got those Christmas Day games, which I'm
Yeah,
very excited for.
yeah, no, agreed. That's probably my favorite part of Christmas. That and the World Juniors starting this year on Christmas. Yeah, my family's gonna have to put an APB out for me.
Are they starting on Christmas this year?
Yeah, they're starting on Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Canada
I
only
didn't know
plays
that.
on Boxing Day, but there's 3 games on Christmas.
Okay. Wow. I
So
guess I'm out of date with hockey.
yeah. So before we close up, let's just go through some of our awards. Your MVP pick this year, Luka, you said?
I'm going with Luka Doncic this year. Um, and if he can become the youngest MVP,
Mm-hmm.
it's just going to add to his resume to making a case for the greatest of all time. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, his narrative, if he plays really well, I think it's gonna be hard to take it from him because that narrative is really good. Obviously, having another superstar European player, which is
Mm-hmm.
always great for the NBA. I went for another player with a good narrative. I picked Kevin Durant coming off
Okay.
that Achilles injury. I think he's going to come back and still be the same guy. I just trust that he can still score, still be that player, and he's great. I think for Brooklyn, they're in a winner bust kind of mode right now, and for them to be in that mode, they have to trust Kevin Durant is healthy, and they haven't backed off that prediction.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And he's going to have an edge on his shoulder.
For sure, he's got something to prove there, and he's got to try to balance with Kyrie too. So he's basically got 2 jobs, but I trust him. How about your title pick?
I got to go with the Lakers. I don't see how anyone. I think they're going to beat Brooklyn in the finals. I know I had Brooklyn at the 4th seed,
Well, we got the same finals.
but I'm taking LA in 6.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go with the same thing actually. I like Brooklyn to get there over Milwaukee. It might not even be Milwaukee. I don't trust them to win the playoffs. Might be a Miami again or even a Boston.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think them that might be the best on paper. That's the best finals in my mind because seeing LeBron play Kevin Durant again in the finals is always fun.
Right. And Kyrie,
And Kyrie
his
for that
former
matter.
teammate.
They've had a bad exit, so that would be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
How about your defensive player of the year?
Um, I'm gonna say Anthony Davis,
Wow. We're
and
right on the money here.
and I think he should have won this year. I don't
Yeah,
know if you
yeah,
would
I
agree
agree
with
with you
that.
100%.
Yeah. Um, adding Marcus Gasol, as a Raptors fan, I watched a lot of Marcus Gasol the past 2 years, and his rotations with Serge Ibaka, it
Hmm.
was top notch. And if it, I think that was a key part in getting past Philadelphia in 2019.
Hmm.
So I think Gasol is going to be able to rotate really well with Davis. Montrezl Harrell brings a lot of energy, and Davis, he's hard to back down. I think he should have a couple Defensive Player of the Year awards by now.
Yeah.
Um, Injuries kind of uh, gave him some bad luck, but I'm going with Anthony Davis.
Yeah, no, I agree with every point you made. He's so good. He can guard you away from the basket. He proved that in the finals when he took Jimmy Butler for stretches. And then in the paint, uh, there's nobody better.
Hmm.
Gobert maybe, but Davis is more athletic than Gobert. So, he can come over and help give you a block playing help defense whenever you really need it. So he's just I think he should have won it last. I agree he should have won it last year, but
Hmm.
Anthony Davis, a great all around player.
Right. And his supporting cast just helps him so
Yeah,
much. I think that's
exactly.
a huge part in going into that.
How about your most improved player?
Most improved, this is always the hardest one to predict.
Yeah.
And if someone gets it right, I'd like to shake his hand because it's always someone random.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some people I've been seeing online, what some people on Twitter say. They've said Shea, Jamal Murray, Andrew Wiggins. But the thing is with those guys, they actually put up good numbers as it is right now.
Right.
Um, Shea averaged 19 points per game. Jamal averaged the same, I think. Wiggins is a 20 plus score. Um, so who I think has the most room to improve this year is Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, he was my second pick.
Hmm. And then my runner up is Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, I like the Lonzo Ball one because his ceiling has been pretty flat thus
Mhm.
far. So I picked DeAndre Ayton, but just thinking it over, he's averaging 20 a game, and I think with Chris Paul, he can get up to say 25, which is a big jump. But
Mhm.
Lonzo Ball can average a triple double, maybe not 20, 10, and 10, but like 18 or 17, 10, and 10. That might be enough to win him the award,
Mhm.
just because he's had he's been he's been capped so far.
Right. And I'm unsure. Do you think he's going to start this year? Do you think
I
him and
assume
Bledsoe will be a
so,
duo?
but I assume he'll start. But
Hmm.
yeah,
See
I'd be
that
surprised if he didn't.
that's my biggest concern with this pick. I don't know if they're going to want to bring him off the bench at first. But if he does start, lots of room to improve. Like you said, if he gets up to 18 a game, I think he averages 11 right now, 7 assists. I think that around that area.
Yeah,
I see a lot of potential in him with a healthy Zion as well.
and we'll cap it off with Coach of the Year.
Coach of the year, I'm saying Rick Carlisle.
Hmm. I like. He's one of the best coaches in the NBA, bar none.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason that he's been there so long. Like he's been in Dallas because Mark Cuban knows that he's got a good coach. So I'm gonna go with Steve Nash. I've been high on Brooklyn all podcast. It's a first year coach. And if they could get second seed in the East, I think that's a pretty good narrative for him to win it. Um, and he's never coached, but Steve Kerr never coached either, and he had a pretty good run with. And Golden State, they weren't as proven as Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. They're both champions already.
Mm-hmm.
Steph and them had made second rounds with Mark Jackson, but I think if they can make a deep run, possibly make it tight with Milwaukee for first in the East, I think they could possibly make a run at it. I don't see the Lakers, winning Frank Vogel winning that award just because they're such heavy favorites coming into the
Right.
season.
It's hard to like teams like that. It's hard to imagine.
Like maybe like if Portland makes a deep run, they could win it. But
Right.
I that or maybe like a Quinn Snyder in Utah, maybe if they could have a good season. But the
Yeah.
Rick Carlisle one's a good pick because
Mhm.
if they can jump from finishing seventh last year to like you're predicting in the top 4 or 5,
Yeah.
that's a big jump.
Um, Another name I considered was Mike Malone of Denver.
Mm-hmm.
If they are able to get back to where they were last year at the second seed.
Right.
But I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I think Rick Carlisle is a better fit for what my predictions are.
Right. So yeah, we both have the Lakers repeating Anthony Davis, and I think it's going to be an interesting season. I'm excited for it to tip off. Like you said, Christmas Day. There's 5 games, including Clippers and Nuggets. We got, I think the Lakers are playing the Warriors, maybe.
The
But
Celtics and Nets, I think.
Celtics and Nets, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, there's 5 games from noon till 11:30 tip offs. So that should be a really fun day. But yeah, no, I think that's gonna end our coverage here. But Billy, it was a lot of fun talking with you tonight, and just thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, it was a great time. I was really excited to when you messaged me asking me to be on, and yeah, it was a great time.
For sure. We'll have you back on in the future, and everybody, I'll be back podcasting with Seamus tomorrow night. But until then, we'll talk soon.